Hi, my name is Cindy Panera, and this is my home in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm a member of the Rare Fruit and Vegetable Club, RFVC, and I've been collecting tropical fruit trees for over 20 years. It's kind of a hobby. Instead of jewelry, which my husband appreciates that I don't collect that, I collect tropical fruit trees. So come on and see my yard. So this is a wild cinnamon tree. It's native to Florida. It only grows in southern Florida. And I actually purchased it for a friend of mine at work who wanted to use the leaves as medicinal tea. It's called wild cinnamon, but it really doesn't have the smell of true cinnamon. It has a peppery flavor. You can take these fruit here and dry them and use it as a seasoning. Okay, so this is an imbi tree. I recently purchased that at the Rare Fruit and Vegetable Club plant sale. I have another one in the backyard, but I found out that it's dioecious, and so I need to have two plants in order for it to fruit. Back here in this area here, I have an Australian cherry, and it has fruited, and some of the fruit has fallen to the ground, and so now I have a couple of seedlings which I'm going to let grow, and eventually, this Hamelia will cut that down because it's like a weed here, it seeds itself. This is my banana plantation, and actually this house was built in 1978, and when I moved in the 1984, the bananas were already here. I attended a tropical fruit class with Al Will, and we did many field trips, and one of the field trips was to a banana farm in Homestead. So I added the red banana to this plantation, and now the original green bananas that were here seem to be gone. The red bananas have taken over, and as you can see, I have some fruiting, and I have several fruiting bananas, and it's really bananas can be kind of messy, if you have it in a regular yard and you want to have grass, but because I have this area dedicated to bananas, it's very easy to just throw the debris right here. I use that as fertilizer. The bananas are watered with a sprinkler system. However, I've never put artificial fertilizer. We get that from the debris, and when my husband cuts the bushes, everything gets thrown underneath the bananas. Okay, this is my mulberry tree, and I planted it on my husband's 60th birthday, so the tree is 7 years old. The berries are kind of small, and it's a lot of work to pick them, so we decided to put like a little screen down here, and then when the berries fall on the screen, it's very easy to gather them up. Okay, I like to document the trees that I'm growing here in my rare fruit and vegetable garden, and so all of these fruits here I have in my garden. Most of my trees have fruited, with the exception of the Jabota Caba and the Meme Americana. This is a guide to where my trees are in my garden, and I do have this along the fence outside so my neighbors can see what I have. So it's an educational thing. I am trying an experiment now with homeopathy for my plants. So there are some homeopathic remedies that you can use to balance the soil. There's some remedies that you can use that to recover the plant after injury, so like it's transplanted or you really severely pruned it. This is a katak, and it grows from cuttings. You can root it in water and then plant it in the soil. And the leaves, they taste like peas. So I like being able to eat the leaves of trees and not having to wait for the fruit. Okay, so this is a star cherry. It's a slow grower, a short plant, and you can keep it in a pot. So that's my plan for this tree. This tree is a jaboticaba, and the fruit will grow right on the branches. They're like purple grapes. Unfortunately, this tree, I planted it in this pot in 1995. It's never fruited for me. It does require a lot of water, and I don't fertilize, so that's probably my fault. This is a curry tree, and I did experiment with homeopathy on this tree because the leaves were looking kind of yellowish, and so I gave it arnica and phosphorus homeopathically, and suddenly it started to bloom these flowers. The flowers are now starting to die off, but the leaves now are nice and green. This is a hydroponic vegetable garden. So I have kale and Swiss chard, and there's some mint here. And this is very easy to grow. The water's down here, and then there's a pump that pumps the water up. And you can get lots and lots of vegetables, and you can actually grow this indoors. So if you live in a northern area, you could have this type of garden. Okay, this is a calamundan. It has orange fruit. It's very popular in the Philippines, and I have a Philippine friend who I bought one for her, and we had this challenge and to see who could get their tree to fruit first, and she won. But I didn't fertilize, and she gave hers orchid fertilizer. Here we have a variegated lime. These you can keep in a pot, and no fruit yet, but I'm hoping. This is a miracle fruit, and you can grow this in a pot. It can stay pretty short. It likes pure peat moss, and these little red berries here make everything taste sweet. So you can eat one of these, and a lemon will taste like an orange. Just one berry is all you need. This is a lemon bay rum. The leaves have a nice lemony scent, and you can take the leaves and make a tea. It can grow pretty tall, but I'm lucky to have my husband do the pruning now, so everything is in shape. Okay, so this is a sweet bay. It stayed kind of short because it's been shaded out. I do have some tropical flowering trees, a Jamaican caper over here and a croton over here. And so my husband has been trimming these. This here is an Annona, Montana, I believe. It has really big fruit. I have had fruit from it, but it doesn't taste that good. This is a coffee tree. I have had berries on it. You can make coffee out of it, but it requires a lot of work to roast them. You can actually eat the coffee beans green, and you can eat them red. Okay, this is a moringa tree, and this is a very nutritious tree. It even has protein. It can be found in Africa. It tolerates drought. It loves the heat, and the more you cut these branches, the more it branches out. You can grow it in a pot, and I dry the leaves and make it into a powder, sprinkle it on my food, or I eat the leaves raw in salads. So this is a true cinnamon tree. The leaves really do smell like cinnamon. You can put it in oatmeal, and that's about the only thing that I use it for. I never take the bark and actually make cinnamon from this. Canistel. The fruit tastes like pumpkin, but my moringa is so big that it's kind of overshadowing this canistel, so it has not fruited yet. Maybe if I decided to fertilize or give it some homeopathic care, it might fruit for me. It's an allspice tree. The leaves smell very, very nice. It has given me fruit, little berries, and there are some seedlings down here on the ground from those berries. And the tree can get pretty tall. My husband has pruned it several times. This tree is a wampy. Most people don't see this tree very often. I got this as a seedling when I took Al Will's tropical fruit class. And right now it's fruiting. So if you look way up there, you can see some yellowish fruit. And depending on the size of the fruit, if they're pretty big, you can peel the skin and just eat the pulp. But you can also eat that fruit whole. This is an Annona squamosa, a custard apple. The thing with this tree is when it gets cold, all the leaves drop, so you want to have it in an area where you don't care about the leaf clutter. It's one of my husband's favorite fruits. I did have one that a hurricane took out years ago. It had lots of fruit. So far this one has not, but this huge tree right here is a longan. And this has been in the ground for over 20 years. It was one of the first trees that I put in, and it's not producing any fruit. And ironically, you buy these fruits for like $20, $30, and then it costs over $1,000 to cut it down. So I've decided to just leave it here. Maybe in the future I'll have some of the branches cut, but I'm not going to be cutting this one down. A avocado. It's pretty small right now. It's from 2018. It wasn't doing so well. I gave it some homeopathic fertilizer, and it's picking a big nay, which is in between the avocado and the Pickering mango. This can be a huge tree. It has grape-like berries. I need to have another tree though in order for it to fruit, and so I'm just going to keep it small, and once the avocados tower over it, it won't be able to grow as quickly because it won't have as much sun. This is my Pickering mango. Last year I only got a couple of fruits, but this year it produced a lot more. However, due to wind and rain, a lot of them fell to the ground. My tamarind tree, you can see there's one pod there. What I like about this tree is not only can you eat the fruit, but when the leaves are young, you can eat them raw in a salad. This is my cogshell mango. I like this tree because it's a dwarf, and so you can easily maintain it. It's not very aggressive. It usually produces a fair amount of fruit every year. A philodendron leaf is very similar to another tropical fruit called the Monstera deliciosa. If you look carefully at these leaves, you will see no holes. The Monstera deliciosa, and as you can see, there are holes in the leaves. They call it Swiss cheese leaves or Swiss cheese plant. Fruit kind of looks like this, almost like a cucumber, very rough, and you have to peel off that, and it tastes like pineapple. Here's my carambola tree. In the past I've had quite a few fruits. It's the Arkan variety, and it's been in the ground for a pretty long time, and it needs a lot of water in order to fruit. I used to have a neem tree, and it was a beautiful, beautiful tree, very long branches that went all the way to my neighbor's yard. Unfortunately, during one of the hurricanes, the neem tree fell in my neighbor's house, and so I have not planted another one. I'll never ripen. So a lot of times if I do garden patrol every day and I find one on the ground that's dropped, I pick it up before the insects get it. That one's going to be hard to harvest. Okay, so this is a kaimito. What I like about the tree is it's very decorative. It has the copper on the bottom side and then green on the top side. This tree can get really, really big. I had maybe a couple of fruits on it, and then I had a landscaper come out and trim the tree, and he was a professional arborist, and he refused to cut it the way I wanted it cut. So I had to hire somebody from Nicaragua. Okay, so this is a loquat tree. I got it at the Rare Fruit and Vegetable Club sale, and I have gotten fruit on it, and you can keep these pretty small. These will grow pretty far north too, so you know, my sister has a friend in Jacksonville that has a beautiful loquat that's really, really big. Macaque sapodilla, and I like to keep this small. It was bigger at one point. There were more fruit on it, as you saw in the picture that Carlos took. But the branches break pretty easily, so I cut it, you know, almost to the ground, and you see it's fine. This is a finger lime. I put it in the ground in 2021. I got it at the Rare Fruit and Vegetable Club, and they're kind of oblong limes. Very interesting looking fruit, kind of a collector's item. And next to it I have a yellow jaboticaba. So previously you saw in a pot on my patio a regular jaboticaba. This one is the yellow variety, and it wasn't a pot for a long time. I put it in the ground, so we'll see if it does better here. It does require a lot of water. This poor tree here is a Costa Rican guava. It did get really, really huge. I did have lots of yellow guava on it. They were kind of sour, but we decided to cut it way back, and I treated it with arnica for wounds. You can see it's kind of weeping some sap there, and so this is an experiment, and we'll see if this guava recovers. A sweet almond. It attracts bees. The flowers have a very wonderful scent. And what's interesting is my dogs love the taste of these leaves. And I don't know why. I did taste it myself, and it kind of has like a bitter flavor. I was Googling it to see if they're poisonous, and neither I or my dogs have died, so I guess it's okay. This is an emperor lychee. I planted it in 2014. I did have a lychee that was closer to the patio door over there that got really, really big. And the problem with these lychees is they can shed a lot of leaves. You can keep them small, so I don't have to, you know, let them get big to fruit. However, they're kind of finicky, and, you know, I may never have fruit on this. I don't know. It likes to have some cold weather in the winter in order to kind of stimulate the fruiting. This is a bay rum. It was in a pot since 1999, and then I planted it in the ground a few years ago. So it is growing better here. The difference between this bay rum and the lemon bay rum is this one is the kind that they use in the aftershave for men. Right, so you'll notice here that the ground cover that I have is a mixture of rubber and brick and artificial grass. And the reason is that I share this yard with my dogs, and just to have mulch down and then have them run in the house and track in mud, or for them to dig holes, you know, creates kind of a mess. So this is no maintenance. The only maintenance I do have is, you know, some of the leaves fall down on the artificial grass, and I might have to rake it. But compared to cutting grass or using a weed eater, this is minor maintenance. Barbados cherry. It was in a pot for a long time also, and it does produce cherries. I have had a few, and my husband keeps this nice and short for me. Over here we have a kwai muck, And this tree was very, very short for over 10 years because it was shaded out by a ficus tree. And now that it's getting plenty of sun, it has gotten huge. And I have had to have it professionally trimmed. And I'll probably do that again because you see the branches are coming out this way, and they're also covering my raised bed garden. My raised bed garden, and my father built that for me, so it has special sentimental value. And in it, I have a Chinese violet, and these leaves are edible, and they taste like radishes. And if you were to plant this in the ground, it would kind of take over, so it's a very aggressive plant. So this is my imbi. I planted it here in 2002, and it still hasn't fruited for me. Well, I discovered recently at the last plant sale that these trees are dioecious, and it needs a partner in order to fruit. Very strong tree, kind of can withstand hurricanes, but has never fruited for me. And I later discovered that there are male and female trees. So I'm not really sure what I have. If you look on the ground here, there's a lot of blossoms. Peanut butter tree, and it grows orange fruit that kind of tastes like peanut butter, and I have had fruit on it.